right, everybody, welcome Dr. Joan Perez, Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, San Gabriel, USD. Woo!
Thank you all. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today and share a little bit about our journey in San Gabriel that has really enlightened our last 2 years in really thinking about how AI technology is going to shape the future of San Gabriel. And at the heart of this work, we have really flipped the script. We realized early on that our journey needed to be about the development of what makes us uniquely human. What are the human skills that our students are going to need to set themselves apart in this brave new world that they are going to be living in? And so we started our journey with really thinking about what is human intelligence and how do we use it to ignite creative thinking, not just in our students, but in our staff and everything that we do in San Gabriel Unified. And so this journey has been 2 years in the making, and it's still evolving by the minute, but we are very excited to share with you our story. So why human-centered leadership in an AI-driven world? As you all know, we are not managing change, we're leading transformation. And because of that, we really need to think about what are the skills as leaders that we need to embody to really help empower others in this journey. So we have been in San Gabriel really thinking about what are those exemplary practices leaders need to have and embody to really not only lead this work but model the way. So we are thinking about how do you empower others in this journey? How do you lead with heart and empathy? How do you really challenge the process and challenge the thinking that has been ongoing in education for many, many decades? How do we really think about not just empowering others, but giving them the space and the time to be creative and think outside the box and take risks? And this comes to the heart of what we've been doing in San Gabriel. And why is it so important? It's because we are building these skills in our students so that they will be ready for their future. And we are doing this by not thinking about how AI will replace humanity, but how it will uplift humanity and how we will be really using AI tools to develop what we are calling human intelligence skills in our students. So one of the things that we've really worked on is really thinking and really discerning what are those skills our students need to be successful. And our journey started back actually in 2019. We worked collaboratively with something we call our Educational Advisory Committee, and that's a group of educational partners, about 75 people in the making. And we have in the room community partners, we have administrators, we have our board members, we have teachers, and most importantly, our students and our parents. And through that work, we really developed an understanding of what we call our portrait of a graduate. Those human skills that we wanted all of our students to really not only understand, but really own, really go deep with their understanding. And the journey would begin in transitional kindergarten, and it would spiral and get more complex as they went through their K-12 journey. And so this began really with student voice and agency. Our students in the room really helped define the process of defining our portrait of our graduate skills and competencies. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that in just a bit. But essentially what we're trying to do is really help our kids, our students, our staff really understand what it means to be human-centered. So as we just talked about this morning, we have a lot of challenges in education. We have declining enrollment. Digital acceleration is happening by the second. And we have changing student expectations. Mr. Simmons and I were just in a Superintendent Student Advisory Council just a couple weeks ago with a high school senior. And he mentioned how important he thought that these human skills were in preparing him for life beyond high school. And he shared that he felt that these skills needed to be not just something that was an add-on, something taught at the beginning of the year, but something that was really integrated into every lesson, into every subject that they are learning in their journey, not just in high school, but K-12. And we really took that to heart, and we shared it with our leaders. These are something that our kids are asking for. They want this. They recognize the importance of these skills. And so when you're thinking about this Generation Alpha, what they are is people who really crave an understanding of purpose, and they really want to be able to have agency. And when we're thinking about developing pathways for kids, they need to be part of the planning. They need to be part of the understanding of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and where we're going. And so that is something that we have really taken to heart, and we put students at the center of everything that we do, all the decisions that we make, and everything that we do, from our Superintendent Student Advisory Council to our Educational Advisory Council to interviews, everything. We are really taking that shared decision-making process where we involve kids to the core of this work. And one of the things that we have shared with our staff, with our students, is the fact that these skills are on the rise, right? The modern workforce is demanding that we develop these skills that really help us define that value added that humans provide to a modern workforce space, right? In a space like this amazing LG place that we're in right now. What makes us uniquely human to work alongside all of this technology. And so these are not just nice skills to have, these are essential skills. And so how do you really think about developing these skills in our students, and not just students, but staff, with greater intention? And so what we did, and I shared this a little bit a couple of slides ago, but we developed our portrait of a graduate. And this was a process that we went through in 2019, and it was a democratic process. We had, again, about 70 plus people in the room, and we had to really think about what were those skills in 2019 that we felt were essential skills to develop in all students. And what we came up with were 6 competencies, and each year we highlight one of those competencies and uplift it. So we have creative thinker, collaborator, global citizen, who are empathetic, communicators, and resilient. And this has been our North Star. It truly has shaped everything that we have gone through, all the decision making that we embody. During the pandemic, it was our guiding light. It really helped us work through the problems of the pandemic. And our students were the ones who really helped define what those competencies not only were, but what they mean. And together we took it that one step further to create our district vision, where we're preparing all students for their future by fostering and practicing the core competencies of our portrait of a graduate to positively impact the world. Again, the kids were part of creating this vision. So our collective purpose, or our motto, is really uplifting this thinking and giving the space to teachers, to administrators, and most importantly to students to really imagine, invent, and inspire, and to ignite creativity so that we can be relevant, so we can develop these human skills and be marketable post-graduation whether they go college or career, and to really be able to speak to these core competencies as well. I'll just share a story. We have a student who just graduated last year, and she's doing a fellowship with a local state senator. And she was sharing that when she went through the interview process, she uplifted the portrait of her graduate competencies, and they told her that is how she landed the job. So, kids coming back and saying, wow, these competencies are really serving me well is really a testament to what we're doing is working, right? Oops. So how do we do this? We talked about the why and the what we're doing, but how do we do it? And so how might we create the conditions for curiosity, agency, and innovation with not just our students, but teachers, administrators, and community? And really, this is our driving question. And so we began, it's not just a lockstep process, it's a very complex process. And we are doing things in tandem. It's not just, oh, you do this and then you do this. We are doing things in tandem because we recognize different people need different things. And so with what we've done, and actually this was Mr. Simmons' idea, is we're creating creativity labs. So last year, we really worked at, well, what does it mean to lead this work? How do we lead this work as instructional leaders, as leaders in our district, that really helps model the way of the importance of putting human skills at the heart of what we do. And we developed something called the Human-Centered Leadership Series. And when we were designing this process, we were using the design thinking process. And we thought about how do we really provide experiences, unique experiences for our leaders, so that they can begin to see the application of these skills in the modern workforce. And so we went to places like Amazon and other places where people could see how organizations like LG or Amazon or Google are using the design thinking process to develop these skills. And we went ahead and it was a 6-month process. It encompassed our entire management team. And they went ahead and learned about the design thinking process, but then we wanted to think about the application of it. And we said, okay, you've learned the process, now how do you apply it? And we had them create passion projects. They all thought of a problem of practice or something that they've always wanted to do, but they didn't have the time. And what they did was each month they would learn from different people who would come in and speak to AI tools. They came in to speak about just the political challenges that we're faced with in education right now. And they began to think about all of these things and the application of it to their project. And every step of the way, each month, they developed those projects. And it was so amazing. In June, we came together at this Amazon facility down in Irvine, and they presented their passion projects. And the people who were most impactful, believe it or not, was our food services team. They wrote a grant and they got a food truck, and they wanted to know, how do we launch this food truck? How do we make it so that the kids are really knowing about our efforts to build better nutrition and give them voice in choosing their food? And so they worked for the 6 months in really developing what they called the Cruising Cafe. And they took the Cruising Cafe on the road. They branded it, they marketed it, and they are truly an exemplar for how, when you use human-centered leadership and you apply these skills, the impact it can have on children. Not only is the Cruising Cafe a huge success, but the kids can't wait till it comes to their site. So each Friday they go out and they have a breakfast bar, they make fresh pancakes for the kids, and the number of kids that they're serving has gone through the roof. It's really a remarkable thing. But they have shared this success with their colleagues, and other colleagues are beginning to implement their projects. Everybody's in a different place, but essentially they are really recognizing the importance of design thinking and really uplifting human-centered leadership. We also have been working very closely with LACO and learning about the tools, AI tools, to learn with the tools. And we're exploring tools like Notebook LM and AI assistants to really deepen our ideation and really the ability to tell the story of their passion projects. So this is one of the labs that we have with our leaders, and we actually are proud to say that this January, we're going to be starting a new cohort with people from different districts. So we have that cross-pollination of thinking and design, and we will be happy to share more information with you if you like. In parallel, we started in the summer of 2023, together with my IT director, Eric Chow, we began brainstorming, okay, this is coming at us fast. How do we as a district really think about putting, these human intelligence skills at the heart, but yet keep kids safe? And so we worked collaboratively with that first year with the California Department of Ed, and we worked with LACO to learn about AI to, again, apply the skills and the knowledge that we needed to develop guidelines to keep kids safe and really help create parameters for how we wanted to use these tools. And so I'm happy to share that in June 2024, our board adopted these guidelines. And then we said, okay, now what? We've got the guidelines. What are we going to do next? And so together, again, with our AI committee, we have upwards to about 40 people on that committee. We decided that we were going to go deeper with this work, and we were going to create our artificial intelligence roadmap. And at the heart of this document, we recognize that it's not a static document. It'll continue to evolve and be refined as we learn more, right? But at the heart of it is keeping human intelligence at the core of our journey. And we also think about how do we want AI tools to be used in the classroom so that it's not about consuming the tools, but creating with the tools. And so the roadmap kind of outlines that. It's a phased-in approach because we recognize not everybody is in the same place. We have some people, teachers and administrators, that have not even used any of the tools yet. And yet we have some that are not only using them, but really helping our students to think critically with them. And so we want to make sure that we're meeting people where they're at and taking them to where they need to be next. And so that's kind of our roadmap for the development of our intelligence, of our artificial intelligence document here. We were going to call it a blueprint. And actually one of our students said, well, I don't really think it's a blueprint because a blueprint is static. It's more like a roadmap. You just keep going. And that's why we changed it to roadmap, right? But again, it's that student voice. And I would say this is probably where the magic happens. This is something that we developed alongside our kids. Mr. Simmons has a superintendent's advisory council where we have kids representing each of our sites come together and help us to really think about how do we operationalize our portrait of a graduate. What we were doing those first few years was we were talking a lot about it, but it really wasn't being utilized in the way that we were wanting it to be, where it was integrated into everything we were doing. And so we started to have the conversation with the kids, and they said, oh yeah, that's that poster on the wall. I've seen it, but I don't really know what it means. And so we talked about it, and we had done adult definitions of each of the competencies. And they said, well, what does that mean? And it was the kids who said, I think we should make it more student-friendly language. And so Our students helped throughout the year. We used the design thinking process, and we went ahead and we created student-friendly language for the portrait of a graduate. And because it came from students, the staff started to own it. And the staff, they were calling it the peacock on the wall. But it was when the kids started to really talk about it more and really start to take it back to their sites, what they were learning in the Superintendent's Advisory Council, that it really started to catch fire, right? And so again, going through that process really helped us create a lab where student voice was uplifted, and it was becoming more than just a poster on the wall. They were living the portrait of a graduate. And students began to create passion projects. One of the passion projects that we are most proud of, this came out of this process, right, was what we call the Words Matter Day. And these two girls took leadership that step further. They really started to not only think about the portrait of a graduate, but they started to think about how do we apply it. And this little girl here, Emmy, she was saying that they had done a kind of like a feedback box from kids across, and one kid said that he was a first grader and that he had people really calling out the color of his skin and saying things that were harmful. And so she recognized, well, maybe first graders don't really understand what the impact their words have. And so together they worked with their principal to create what they call Words Matter Day. And this just caught on like wildfire. Not only was it hugely successful, but we shared it with the entire district, and the whole district wants to do Words Matter Day now. So it showed these students the power of being creative and thinking outside the box and applying these human skills to something that they felt was a real world problem, and they were uplifting all the core competencies of the portrait of a graduate in the making. And that was the power of this process really coming to life. The other thing that we were able to do is we created just last year a portrait of a graduate commercial. And maybe later I can show you this, but the commercial was last year's group saying, okay, we've created the student definitions, now what? And the commercial really helped them provide context to why the portrait was important to them and how it should be utilized in our classrooms and in our community. And this also came out of them thinking of how they wanted to own these competencies, but also share them with others. In unison, we were working with our teachers, and we created something called the Portrait of a Practice Playbook. Because we said, how do you measure? How do you measure students' progress? You can't measure it. It's not like data you get from standardized testing. How do you measure this? We had to have something that really helped us come alongside kids and build these competencies, but yet wasn't something that people didn't feel like, oh, I'm not good at empathy. So we wanted to make sure that we were mindful of that. So we worked with teachers to develop our Portrait to Practice Playbook, and I'll pass one around in a little bit. And these were rubrics that the teachers helped create that were more I can statements. And it was for TK all the way through grade 12. And I can be empathetic by, and you'll see it in a little bit. And so we created it, and we also thought about, well, what does this look like in the classroom? And we provided that information for teachers to consider as they think about the integration of this portrait of a graduate work. So when we think about the journey we're on, it by far is not perfect, right? And we are still constantly reflecting and thinking about what can we do better. As a matter of fact, we are having Scaling Student Success is coming out on November 14th, and they are an organization the California Department of Ed has put together to help districts throughout the state develop a portrait of a graduate. By the year 2035, all districts in the state of California are going to be required to have one. And so they wanted to learn about our process and where our barriers were. And so districts throughout the state are coming to San Gabriel to learn about this journey and visit some of our classrooms. But we're going to be sharing our barriers. Like, one of our barriers is, yeah, we've got this playbook, we've got all of this these student products that are really showing how the students are embodying it, but how are teachers really using it? Is the playbook something that sits on a shelf, or is it something that they really are thinking intentionally about integrating into their lessons? And I think that's where we have still room to grow. But this is how AI can help us, right? It can really help us really think like a thought partner, how to get creative with this work and how to think more mindfully about the application of these skills in each and every day, in each and every lesson, and on every campus. And I'm really proud of the work we're doing, but like I said, by far, we still have room to grow and learn from all of you. So I would love to hear more about what all of you are doing to really uplift this work in your districts as well.
Well, that was amazing. Let's just give Dr. Joan Perez a big round of applause.